Do this. All right, so today's a Freestyle Friday, but I'm gonna kick us off with a topic and a conversation. I'd love for us to begin thinking about collaborating. And I was on a top producer mastermind with some of our coaches, some of our coaches in my world, and one of the statements that they said is that systems run the business, and then people run the systems.
Mhm.
Systems run the business, and then people run the systems. So I'd like for you to think about and consider, what are the systems currently that are running your business, and what are you doing to ensure that those systems continue and run, and how much of it requires your direct input versus just monitoring or um, accountability, right? How much of your business is automated? How much of your business is manual and yet on lockdown, right? So let's think about your business from like a macro all the way down to the micro. What are some of the systems that you're running that you feel are just like essential?
I'd say my CRM, utilizing it is huge. Um,
Okay.
Making sure you have auto plans. For those of you that aren't comfortable with automated like emails and texts, then use your auto plans to remind you to do the thing so you at least don't forget, and keep it all in your head and have that lack of
Okay. So
communication.
that's real 30,000 foot. Like, how specific can you take us?
How specific in terms of like things I do in the CRM or something?
For instance, right? So the CRM is a platform for communication and relationships
Yeah, yeah,
inside the CRM. So like when someone's like when you meet somebody out in the street,
yep.
what's your system for a new relationship?
Yeah. I mean, so assuming we've had a conversation
Mhm.
already,
No,
uh,
brand new
or
person you
like how
just
do I
met.
even, so I guess it depends on where I met them. If it's, a casual conversation in, like social circles, those kind of things
Mhm.
versus, uh, a first meeting on a appointment versus say an open house. So like an open house, I'm always trying to build rapport at first and just like, hey, what brings you in? Have you guys seen a lot of houses? I kind of try to give them their space to see the house, but then have communication before and at the end.
All right, so pause.
Yeah.
That's a system. So when you're at an open house, when somebody comes in, you've already got a set of scripts.
Yes. Yes.
That's a system. That's being prepared for somebody to come in to create dialogue, right? So you got to, but even before the open house, what did you do to get the open house? And like think about your open house system and what is absolute step one of open house.
Yeah. Step one would be,
Schedule it.
yeah, schedule it.
Schedule
Schedule
it.
it.
How far? And so how far back is that? Do you schedule it on Friday for Saturday?
Oh, uh, depends if it's my listing or if I don't have a listing
Why
and
does
need
it depend?
because I have to, if it's my own listing, I don't have to go and figure out if they, like there's a little bit of research that has to be done to find the right open house for
So
if you're
so
going.
what does your open house system day one start, regardless of my listing or anyone else's listing?
Day one
That
is
doesn't change. When did
Day one is Mondays. You're figuring out what open house you're going to do for that weekend.
Okay, so Monday, the week of the day you want to do the open house, is when you select and schedule the open house. So like if I had a policies and guidelines, or if I had a manual for my business that was franchisable. So let's just say your business is now McDonald's, and every single thing you do has a step-by-step procedures and guidelines. And I flip to the open house tab, and I go and they say, welcome to open houses. We're going to give you the step-by-step to ensure that you have the best open house, no matter if it's yours or somebody else's. Step one, the Monday before, identify and schedule your open house. Boom. Step two, what?
Um, Step two is going to be, so we've scheduled it already
Uh-huh.
with the client. Then I actually don't put it in the MLS till Wednesday or Thursday. There's too much happening on Mondays or Tuesdays with new listings that
Okay.
I don't know. I feel it gets better attention if you wait. Then it's creating marketing material and getting the marketing out.
Okay.
on
So step 2, click on this template. This is the template we use for all of our open houses. Create the template, print how many copies, download to a PDF, create. Do you doing any advertising?
Oh yeah, well, yes, on social media.
Okay, great. So what day do you post it, the upcoming open house on your business page? Do you have any strategic targeting around that? How much are you spending to boost, et cetera? So even at the beginning of the open house, if you go to the tab that says open house, you open it and it says open house system, $50 to $75, right? Have $50 to $75 set aside for printing, advertising, mailers, postcards, et cetera. And then step 1, step 2, step 3, right? And so you may have 35 steps before you even get to the open house.
Oh,
From identify the open house, schedule the open house, have the flyer created, create a social media campaign, get it on your business page on Wednesday, and then put it into create a Facebook event, invite database, do a text blast to database. Now do a targeted geo-targeting around this. Now on Thursday, Friday, circle prospect around the open house, inviting everyone, creating the exclusive neighbors only preview the half hour before the scheduled open house, create a QR code for people to sign in and register when they come into the open house, prepare my 3 or 4 value adds to exchange for information and set an appointment, whether that's a list of houses similar to this or a list of off-market properties that are still available similar to this, or a list of the 17 things that we do to help buyers win in this market, PDF, similar to this. So then it's ready to go, right? And then what? Are you partnering with a vendor on this? Is there food? Is there et cetera? Who's picking it up? When are you getting it? How many pointers are going out? Is it 16 pointers or is it 4? Are there balloons or not? Do you have one of these guys? Right. Because if you don't, I can do this. I'm good at this part. Right. You can just stand out there like spinning a sign. So what I'm saying is this, right? Like, how strategic and specific are you with your systems such that every time you do it, you've got everything mapped out. And then once it's proven and best practice, you can now take this binder and literally hand it to somebody who's hungry and capable and say, great, on this team or on this, if you're going to do one of my open houses, here's how we do it. And are you willing, like, read it first before you say yes? Are you willing to take on these things? Because you're going to get to recoup all of the leads that come through on this for yourself, right? I mean, there'll be a split if however you want to navigate or negotiate that. And yet, this is how we do open houses, whether it's 1 or 4 per week, right? And then that's even before anyone comes through the door. Now, when somebody comes through the door, we've got a system for engagement. We've got a system to collect information. Once we have information, now it goes into the next system, open house follow-up system. And then when we follow somebody through an open house, when they become or reach out and they're ready to become a client, cool. We have a new buyer system, needs analysis, walking through the new NAR settlement guidelines, like signing the buyer agency ahead of time, whether it's a 1-time or a 6-month or a per property or whatever. And then we have a showing system. How many of you have a showing system? How strategic are you when you're going out for showings? For instance, here's one of my showing systems. I set them up on a drip campaign. I take a look at off-market properties. I assemble the top 5 or 6. And at the appointment, I let them know when we're going through the properties, we're going to be focusing on your top 2 only. So I'm going to have printouts of these. And every time we go into a property, I'm going to hand you one of the printouts. When we go into it, I'm going to ask you, is this the one? And if it's not, that's fine. I'm just going to keep taking notes. And then I'm going to ask you to rank them as we see them. So obviously, when we go into the first one, I'm just going to say, hey, keep this in mind. And when we go into the next one, I want to know if the second house is higher or lower than the first one we looked at. And then when we go to the third one, I'm going to give you the third one when we walk in. But before we leave, you've got to give me one of them back. So you'll have to let me know, is the third one better or worse than any of the first 2? And if it's better, okay, which of the first 2 are we no longer considering? And then I tear it up in front of them. So I physically get them to see that's no longer in consideration because we're really only focusing on our top two. That's part of the system. Outside of that system, I'm setting up the showings in such a way that I believe that the first one that we go to is the best one out of the list, so that every property that we go to is considerably getting worse. Why do we do that? Because I said to them when we meet, because you're going to tell me exactly what you're looking for, I may be able to take us right to it right away. And so I'm going to give you permission because a lot of my clients fall in love with the first property, but they feel weird about it. I'm letting you know that that is on purpose. Because you're telling me exactly what you want. If I'm doing a great job, I can take us right to it. So you may fall in love with the first one and it's not an accident. Does that make sense? So I'm giving you permission. If you love it, then let's write on it, right? And then we go through it. And when we go, if the first one is the best one and the next one's a little not as good, and then and the third and the fourth, they're going to go by the fourth or fifth and go, do we even need to see the sixth one? Because they just keep getting worse. What happens is if you accidentally just do it by convenience and you happen to hit the best one on the last one or the second to last one, they may love it. And then you're going to say, great, are you ready to write on it? And they go, no, they just keep getting better. We got to see the rest of the list. Systems, strategy, like this is purpose. The systems run the business and the people run the systems. How strategic and how purposeful are you in running and executing these systems? So that's the buyer system. So great. So now they love it. They want to write it. Cool. Now we go into the strategies and the systems for writing a competitive offer. Great. I want you guys to go get a cup of coffee, go get a beverage, hang out, have a conversation, start thinking about kind of go back, take a look at your numbers. I'm going to go reach out to the listing agent. I'm going to go see what kind of information I can find out about the property, what's important to the seller. I'm going to pull some comps, and then we're going to get together and we're going to game plan the perfect offer, right? I want you to review that list of levers that we talked about and see which ones you're willing to and feel comfortable pulling. And we'll talk through what's going to make a really competitive and compelling offer. Cool. So we'll circle back and then we get together and then we say, we may not have a second chance, right? And now you got your scripts. We may not have a second chance. We got to put our best foot forward that if we lose it, even by $5, you can sleep at night. Okay. This is your decision. I'm just going to help you. Like, I'm going to give you all the information. I'm going to advise you as much as you'd like. And then it's going to be your decision. Cool. Cool. And then we go through. Right. So that's the next system. Right. And then if they get it, so you can see here, let me pull this here. This is, I don't know if you can see it. This is a sheet of all of the activities and things that happen in a real estate transaction, and it's broken down by roles. There are over 191 activities that happen in the real estate transaction. How much of these do you have systematized, or how many are you hoping to remember when it matters? And so you may go, well, I'm not McDonald's and I'm not a franchise. Okay. But the one person that believes that they are or will be will never accidentally forget. And then once you've got, see, the thing is, when you have these checklists, when you have these systems, when you have these things just kind of laid out and marked down, and you can refer back to them, number one, it's going to level up your game. And number two, this is now where you can scale without having to reinvent everything and have to spend so much time with people, because you're going to go, hey, read through the manual. Now follow me with the checklist. So it's going to be, we're going to do it. Then you're going to do it. And I'm going to be with you, watching you and shadowing you. Like, so I'm going to do it. Then we're going to do it. And then you do it. This is how you start getting your life back. This is where you start creating time freedom so you can start creating legacy. It's these systems. A lot of times people hear systems and they go, yeah, well, I don't know. I like to be authentic. I like to be really personal. I like to be really relational. And all that means is you're lazy and you're not a professional, because professionals run the play authentically.
Mhm.
The professionals can run the system relationally, and they're genuine and strategic. You can be both. Thoughts? Ahas? What did you hear today? I apologize. I went on a little bit of a diatribe. This is more of a presentation than a conversation. So that's on me. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I always have to laugh because I feel like you're singling me out, and I know you're not, but your
I
message is
actually I
so
was. Today was
relevant.
just for you. I'm glad everyone
Thank you,
participated.
thank you, thank you. I'm always like, oh, yeah, yeah.
Kidding. Just so everyone knows, I am kidding. I am kidding. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
So
that,
so when you say that, why did you say that?
um, well, a lot of different things, in terms of what you know this, everybody else may not know this, but I can be a little stubborn, and I can accept change and I can adapt to change. It's that initial, like, I need time to process. I always
Sure.
am like, this is how we've done it. This has worked for me. Why would I want to change it? Or this is comfortable for me. Why would I want to change it? And
Yeah.
so I think there's always that resistance. But for me, it's realizing, like, I've implemented a lot of systems in my business since we started coaching a year ago, but I still have a long ways to go. So it's just a stark reminder of that. And like every time I implement a system, whether that's a person or a process, right? Any kind of
Mhm.
leverage, my business grows and
Yeah.
my peace of mind grows. It's like I open up to do more business because I can focus on the dollar producing activities. But it's just really hard to give some of that away sometimes. And so, yes, I feel like it was pointing out to me because it's like, especially the authenticity part, right? We've been battling this for a while, like, but it doesn't feel authentic to me. Well, really challenging myself and saying, is it that is it that it doesn't feel authentic to you and you feel like you're like being completely like whatever, not being yourself, or are you hiding from something? Are you using that as a crutch to
Yeah.
not do what you know you need to do but don't want
Oh
to
yeah.
do?
Oh yeah. 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 Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing that. I know that helped somebody right now. Somebody else resonates in that capacity. What else did you guys hear? What's your opportunity here?
Um, Obviously, I think the opportunity is to get better, right?
Sure.
Um, Listening to that for me, it really gives me a headache. It's I mean, it's important stuff. Um, but it's for me thinking about it, it's just like, man, that's just one other thing, that I have to get done, figure out, and it's like, where do I have the time to do that? I feel like I'm already stretched pretty thin. And so now
Mhm.
thinking about going through 190, you know, blank, whatever you said, the things that go through and trying to have a system that breaks down into 190 things each, you know, um, it's a daunting task. But I also think and know that it's the things that, set agents apart, and a lot of them don't do it. And so even if you did half of them, I mean, it would set you apart so much. And I know having them done, kind of like Michelle said, it becomes leverage where you open yourself up, but it's also like you got to do it first to get to the point
Sure.
where you're able to leverage it.
Sure. Here's the trap, right? And so I hear you, Ramil, right? So at low volume, your inefficiencies and ineffectiveness are hidden, right?
Mhm.
Like your broken systems or incomplete systems can be justified at low volume when you're doing one or two or three deals a month. A lack of systems is hidden. It's when you get to 7, 8, 9, 10 a month is where you start forgetting the core components of the service, right? See, like when you're running around attempting to remember everything as opposed to checking a list and checking things off, that's where anxiety and overwhelm come into play. Write this down, guys. All anxiety and overwhelm is a symptom of a lack of systems and models. The problem is what got you here is keeping you from there, because you're now scrambling to remember things that you wouldn't have to spend a single piece of mind share on if you had a checklist and a system. So just like a car, you can get going in first gear and you can be moving forward. The engine is revving really high, but how fast are you going? Not very fast if you're still stuck in first gear. And if you're driving a manual, so for the millennials on this, it's where you have to actually shift the gear, and there's a pedal to the left of the brake called the clutch. And in order to shift from first to second gear, what do you have to do?
Push in the clutch.
You got to push in the clutch. You have to actually disengage the engine, shift gears, and then slowly bring the clutch back out and re-engage the engine. Now, momentarily, you slow down a little bit while the engine is recalibrating and reshifting to catch the speed for the next gear. So, yeah, there's going to be times in our businesses as we're leveling up, as we're gearing up, that you're going to have to momentarily take your foot off the gas for a second to then build, implement, and execute the next level of systems that can take you even faster and further for the same effort. This is how it is. And it's letting go of that toxic entrepreneurial mindset of I have to constantly be moving fast. I have to be working on my business versus in it. And you've got to be going back and forth. And that's the gears. That's the levels. Yes, I can't fathom putting together 191 pieces of a system because I'm working really, really fast. You're right. And in order to get closer to the 191, you may have to back off for a second and implement one or two at a time, not all of them. Like you also can't go from first to fifth. You can't skip the other gears, or what? You bog out the engine and it stalls. That's it. You can't skip the levels either. And so as an individual agent, as you're building your systems, you can't put in all of them at once. You will bog out and stall out. So there's a dance to it, right? If you will. If you're overwhelmed and you're anxious, check in on how much you're automated. What systems are you implementing and running? And if you're winging it at a high level, that's your issue. The more you know. I appreciate you guys. We're over time a little bit here. So
where do we get a copy of that list?
What's that?
Where can I get a copy of that list?
Ooh, I don't know. This one that's all laminated and pretty.
Sure.
I might have an Excel spreadsheet with this with some additional tabs that break it down a little bit more. So shoot me a message and I might be able to hook you up.
Okay.
That would save me a lot of work.
It's a start.
It's a start.
It's a start. Again,
It's
just a start. It's not the do all be all end all. So anyway, we're a little bit over time. Appreciate you guys. You're amazing. Have an amazing Friday. This Friday, again, take the energy off this call and stay untiltable. All right. Ramil, let's jump off and then we'll jump back on. All right. Later, guys.
Thanks, man.
Bye.